Okay, let's try that. Good afternoon, television fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, and welcome back into episode number 8 of Television Station History. Today, we will be looking at WNET's sister station and secondary PBS member, WLIW-TV. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And before we get started, I gotta say what's up to Anna, Fly Eagles Fly. What's up, Anna? Alright, here's the history on WLIW. WLIW Channel 21 is a secondary PBS members television station licensed to Garden City, New York, serving the New York City television market. It is owned by the WNET group alongside the area's primary PBS member, Newark, New Jersey licensed WNET Channel 13. Two Class A stations, WNDT-CD Channel 14 and WMBQ-CD Channel 46, which share spectrum with WLIW, as well as public radio station WLIW-FM 88.3 in Southampton, New York. Through an outsourcing agreement, the WNET Group also operates New Jersey's PBS state network NJPBS and the website NJ Spotlight. WLIW and WNET share studios at 1 Worldwide Plaza in Midtown Manhattan, with an auxiliary street-level studio in the Lincoln Center complex on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Channel 21's transmitter is located at One World Trade Center, and the station also maintains a production studio at its former transmitter site in Plainview, New York. WLIW's multiplex is New York's highest power ATSC 3.0 or next-gen TV television station, and also broadcasts WMBQ-CD. Alright, back to the top, and I'll tell you about the specs on WLIW. Garden City, New York, New York. An ATSC 3.0 station. The station broadcasts on Virtual Channel 21 and RF Digital Channel 32, which is shared with sister station WMBQ-CD. On-air brand is WLIW-21. And this is, as I alluded to, the secondary PBS station in New York City. Owned by the WNET Group and licensed by WNET. Its sister stations are NJPBS, that's the statewide PBS network across New Jersey. Also, radio stations WEER and WLIW-FM, as well as television properties WMBQ-CD, WNDT-CD, and WNET. Channel 21 signed on the air on January 14, 1969, and previously broadcast on analog UHF Channel 21 from 1969 to 2009. Their digital signal, meanwhile, broadcast on UHF Channel 22 from 1999 to 2009, and Channel 21 from 2009 to 2019, before moving their digital signal to the current Channel 32. Upon sign-on, Channel 21 was a part of National Educational Television, or NET, and then a year later in 1970, NET would be replaced by the present-day PBS. Call sign meaning is Long Island. WLIW is licensed by the Federal Communications Commission and broadcasts with an effective radiated power of 72,000 watts, or rather 72 kilowatts. Their 1,626-foot transmitter is located at One World Trade Center in Manhattan. Their website is WLIW.org. WLIW was established in 1969 as the first television station on Long Island. Originally operated on a tight budget, the station had no permanent studio facilities for nearly a decade. In the 80s and 90s, increasing cable television coverage led to the expansion of WLIW into a regional service that was the smaller competitor to WNET, the nation's largest public television station. And the station increased its own programming efforts. However, some critics felt that this shift de-emphasized the station's Long Island identity. In 2003, WLIW and WNET merged, completing an 18-month process. As part of the WNET group, WLIW maintains a separate vice president and general manager, Diane Mascali, who is in charge of the entire group's locally oriented television production. Early history. The Nassau County Board of Supervisors voted on February 14, 1968 to provide funding to set up an educational television station on Long Island, thereby also accessing matching funds from the New York State government. The Long Island Educational Television Council then applied for and in June received a construction permit for Channel 21 in Garden City. Facilities were established on the campus of Nassau Community College, while a 60-hour broadcast week evenly split between in-school instruction and general cultural offerings were slated. Test programming from Long Island's first TV station was aired beginning on January 14, 1969. With the station still not completely set up and technicians using screwdrivers to adjust audio levels, including a series of hearings on the Long Island Railroad. Official broadcasting on Channel 21 did not begin until January 27th. And let's say what's up to Chad up in the chats. What's up, Chad? WLIW operated on a very tight budget. So tight that its founding general manager, public television veteran William Pierce, resigned after 4 months to return to his former employer. WXXI-TV, that's the local PBS station in Rochester. It lacked a full studio of its own or its own mobile broadcasting equipment, and it spent 7 months without a new leader as other public television managers turned down the post. Color telecasts only began with the installation of color videotape machines in December 1972, nearly 4 years after the station started up. The station finally got studio space when it moved into the New York Institute of Technology, or NYIT, in Westbury in 1974. But that arrangement lasted just 2 years. Station operations were then moved into a mobile van, which some employees claimed was due to a vote by technicians to unionize. As the station investigated studio space at Stony Brook University, it also received federal approval and matching grants to move its transmitter to Plainview, New York, and increase power to cover all of Long Island. A year major change would mark 1979 for WLIW. In February, the new Plainview transmitter site and studios at the highest point on Long Island was activated, significantly improving reception and extending Channel 21's reach and capabilities. However, internal strife dominated the second half of the year. Charles R. Bell, who had been general manager since Pierce's departure, accused some of the station's trustees with interfering in programming decisions to further political ambitions. Sorry about that. And the goals of a political strategy firm, which one of them headed. The trustees responded by voting not to renew Bell's contract. Chicken. Love me some chicken. John Wickline assumed the manager post in February of 1980 and sought to give the station an identity independent from that of WNET and additional local programming and support. He was also tasked with erasing a $250,000 deficit from the building programs of the late 70s that had forced layoffs and program suspensions. When other public television stations in the state visited WLIW, their leaders assessed additional non-financial problems at the station, an acceptance of living in the shadow of WNET, and a quote-unquote defeatist attitude. Its ability to attract local support was eclipsed by stations serving far fewer people, such as WCFE-TV in Plattsburgh. Wickland left after just 3 months and was soon replaced by Arthur Gillick of Syracuse. Gillick was able to steady the station's financial picture and restore the lost local programs as a result. Man, let me drink something real quick. Sorry about that. I'm going to read that again. Gillick was able to steady the station's financial picture and restore the lost local programs as a result, though further local cuts led to the loss of the station's news programming for a time, beginning in 1982. He served as general manager until his December 1983 death from cancer at the age of 35. The 1980s would bring expanded coverage for WLIW in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, thanks to increased carriage on cable systems. A station that in 1985 was still trying to recover from its attempt to be a junior Channel 13 in the eyes of William Wren, a professor at Hofstra University, had by 1990 leaned into its growing reach, with 62% of its members coming from outside Long Island and a viewership that put it in the top 10 nationally among public television stations. It was also profitable for the first time in its history. Despite this, political leaders on Long Island continued to clamor for increased local programming. The station also had to fight for its expanded cable carriage after must-carry rules were abolished in 1985. Some cable providers dropped the station, citing duplication to WNET and to the station's over-the-air broadcasts. Paragon Cable's Manhattan system dropped WLIW in 1987 and replaced it with the Cable Value Network, an old home shopping channel, only to restore it weeks later after protests from subscribers. The early 1990s saw funding cutbacks that once again prompted the cancellation of local productions as the economy took a nosedive. State support of public television declined, and New York State instituted cutbacks across government. This spurred the further evolution of WLIW into a regional service, as well as a reduced reliance on PBS programs to differentiate the station from WNET. WLIW was a founder of the Program Resources Group, a 13-station alliance consisting of secondary PBS television stations or other public television stations formed to buy programs and reduce the proportion of PBS programming on its schedule from between 80 and 90% to 30%, while debuting more British programming. In 1998, the station began a 10-year association with the BBC to distribute BBC World News, to public television stations in the U.S., and WLIW had previously offered news from ITN. Which is a competing news operation in the UK. By 2001, WLIW had an office in Manhattan, at which 15 of its 65 employees worked. It also increased its production efforts to the point that 20% of its $11 million budget was attributed to selling its output, including ethnic documentaries such as A Laugh, A Tear, A Mitzvah, to other public television stations. These were particularly popular for station pledge drives. By the time WLIW and WNET merged in 2003, we'll be talking about that shortly, Channel 21 was the leading distributor of such programs, including versions complete with pledge breaks seen nationally, and WLIW manager Terrell Cast attributed the station's continued survival to its foray into national program production. The station also maintained distribution of CNBC's program Louis Reichard's Wall Street for public television stations, which ran from 2002 to 2004. Now we're going to talk about the merger with WNET. Stimulated by the impending conversion to digital television and necessary equipment expenditures, as well as a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to explore shared master control functions, WLIW and WNET began engaging in discussions on how to pool primary technical resources in 2000. At the initial suggestion of WNET, these conversations soon blossomed into outright merger talks, which lasted months as board members expressed reservations over potential changes and the loss of WLIW's Long Island identity. A merger agreement was approved by the WLIW board on July 31, 2001, under which WNET would assume WLIW's operations and 8 members of the WLIW board would join WNET's. The move would save WLIW $5 million in digital conversion costs and reduce duplication of shows between the stations, which would retain their distant public identities. It was also met with some opposition on Long Island. One WLIW board member resigned over what she felt was a reduction of local programming, and longtime Newsday television columnist Marvin Kittman decreed an assault on the public interest, which he compared to appeasement towards Nazi Germany. While the merger awaited federal approval, Channel 21 stepped up during the September 11th attacks by rebroadcasting WNBC Channel 4 and WABC-TV Channel 7, both of which lost their transmitter sites at the World Trade Center. Meanwhile, Channel 4 previously broadcast over Channel 21 during the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. The WNEW and WLIW merger took 18 months to complete, as the FCC objected to a part of the merger agreement that required WNET to air specific amounts of local programming on WLIW. FCC approval was eventually obtained, and the deal was consummated on January 31, 2003. The deal created operational efficiencies. WLIW eliminated 20 positions in anticipation of the merger, while the Educational Broadcasting Corporation, or the present-day WNET Group, became the license. The Long Island Educational Television Council was retained as an advisory board and fundraising arm. In 2010, the WNET group leased space in One Worldwide Plaza for its new studios and opened a street-side studio at Lincoln Center. WLIW's programming, aside from featuring a block of British programs known as High Tea, also contains secondary PBS output. In 2015, WNET announced plans to move POV and independent lens to WLIW because they failed to hold the viewership of the preceding program, Antiques Roadshow. In 2019, the WNET group expanded its presence on Long Island to radio by buying Southampton public radio station WPPB 88.3 FM covering eastern Long Island and rebranding it as WLIW-FM the following year. Local programming. Nationally distributed public television programs presented by WLIW include Consuelo Mac, Wealth Track, which has been in production since 2005. Programs of local interest include WLIW Arts Beat and Treasures of New York. Some programs are shared with the rest of the WNET group, such as Metro Focus, which is aired on WNET, WLIW, and on NJPBS to all the PBS stations in New Jersey. Since 1997, WLIW has produced and distributed the Vision series of programs, using aerial montages to showcase regions and countries. In 2020, WLIW debuted Drive-By History, which spotlights roadside history markers on Long Island and in New Jersey. Sorry again. Historically, the station produced full-length Long Island news programs. The first such program, known as Long Island News Magazine and Newsview, was canceled in June 1982 for financial reasons. It was then revived in January 1985, but low ratings motivated the station to cancel the Long Island Report in 1988. A nightly news program was revived in July 1990 with the debut of the 21 edition, and this was canceled the following year due to budget cuts. Technical information and the subchannels. In addition to its main channel and the Create and World services, WLIW also offers All Arts, a 24-hour arts channel produced by the WNET group and launched in 2019. Alright, so on 21.1 is PBS, broadcasting in 1080i HD and a 16:9 aspect ratio. In fact, all 4 subchannels have an aspect ratio of 16.9. What's up, Joey? How you doing, bro? Channels 21.2 and 21.3 both broadcast in 480i high definition. Create is on 21.2 and World is on 21.3. And on 21.4, broadcasting in 1080i high definition and a 16:9 aspect ratio, is WNET's All Arts channel. The ATSC 1.0 host is WNET for WLIW's first, third, and fourth digital subchannels, while WCBS-TV is the ATSC 1.0 host for their second subchannel. As for the channels of WLIW and WMBQ-CD and ATSC 3.0, on WLIW spectrum, they have the next-gen signals of WCBS-TV 2.1 WNBC 4.1, WNET Channel 13, WLIW Channel 21, and Telemundo owned and operated WNJU Channel 47. Channels 2, 4, and 47 are broadcast with Digital Rights Management, or DRM. Analog to digital conversion. WLIW ended its regular programming on its analog signal over UHF Channel 21 on June 12, 2009, as part of the federally mandated transition from analog to digital television. The station's digital signal relocated from its pre-transition UHF Channel 22 to Channel 21. The WNET group would relocate Channel 21's transmitter from Plainview to One World Trade Center in 2019, coinciding with the repack from Channel 21 to Channel 32. ATSC 3.0. On February 1st, 2022, the WNET group announced plans to convert WLIW into an ATSC 3.0 television station. As part of the plan, WLIW would move its ATSC 1.0 broadcast to its sister station WNET, while WLIW would additionally carry ATSC 3.0 broadcasts from WNET and NJPBS, in addition to WLIW's own broadcasts. An estimated launch date for the end of 2022 was given. The WNET group filed revised 3.0 plans in September 2023 and launched the ATSC 3.0 service on October 16th of that year. WNET took 3 of the 4 sub-channels on its multiplex, with WCBS-TV broadcasting Create on Channel 21's behalf. And WLIW hosted 3.0 signals for WLIW and WNET, plus WCBS-TV, WNBC, and WNJU. In addition, WNET Group owned WMBQ-CD, moved from the WNET multiplex to the WLIW multiplex, reducing overlap to WNDT-CD, both of which are shared spectrum Class A stations entering the network First Nations Experience, or FNX. Alright, quick notes before we wrap this up. WNET and WLIW dropped BBC World News in 2008 to launch World Focus, their own international news program for public television. It was cancelled in 2010 for financial reasons, at which time the BBC program would return to the stations. And that is a look at the television history of WLIW Channel 21, which is the secondary PBS member station and sister station of main PBS station WNET. Coming up tomorrow in episode 9, we'll be taking a look at WXTV-DT, the first Spanish language television station in New York. And we'll be checking that out tomorrow, so make sure you join me. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for episode 9 of TV Station History. Peace out.